welcome, everyone to the Sigma Show, episode 95.
Damn.
I'm your host, Sigma. Before I let you know who's joining me today, yes, I started on the wrong channel. Let's not worry about that. Let's keep moving forward in the air of positivity. I'm going to let you know what our topics will be. First up, we've gotten news or word that new Lord of the Rings movies are going to be made. I first was told that there were going to be remakes of the first three movies, but apparently that's wrong. That is just factually incorrect information. These will be spin-offs or other stories or whatnot. So we'll talk a little bit about like maybe what fans would want from that sort of thing and if it's a good idea in the first place. And afterwards, Sony had their latest state of play. They had a couple of announcements and a very big deep dive into Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. And we got some concerns confirmed about that game. So we'll talk about that whole thing. And here to join me in that discussion, Rachel Kaiser,
Hi, everyone.
Honey Money,
Hello.
and Gem8 Design Delph.
It me. Hello, guys. It be me. It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while. Thanks everybody for joining me. Always a pleasure to have you all.
I rarely get to stream with JM8 and Honey Money, so I'm happy.
Yes,
Hell yeah.
this is what I want. I want the different connections so that everybody can have connections to everybody else. I want to
Hell
say
yeah.
Jeff and Will have become very buddy because of these because
Nice.
of these podcasts. Like they're Fortnite
You must
bros
love
now.
that, Casey.
Will doesn't text me back, so,
Well,
not
Will's
all
a
the
jerk.
connections
You know,
last. So.
like
We'll leave you on bed.
Will's a nice guy, but sometimes he's just a massive jerk, and it's the New York in him. He can't help it.
It comes with the territory.
Right, so it's just a part of him. But anyway, as we tend to do, we'll go ahead and start with what we've been playing, watching, reading, listening to, etc. Whatever you feel like sharing, you can go ahead and dive in. I only have one real game that I want to talk about, so I can go first if you guys need some time to like warm up.
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Go for it.
So I'm still on this Wild Hearts trip. I played, I want to say 40 hours of the campaign, which is all you can do until you, I guess, reach the end game. But I've not spent a ton of time in the end game. I did a 3MR for it, which ended up being about 5 minutes and some change. But I still don't feel like I fit everything that I really wanted to say about that game in that time slot. So I apologize for that because I'm kind of looking back on that review now, like, damn, if I went over the 3 minutes anyway, I should have just kept going, like as opposed to worrying about time at all.
Yeah.
But there's a couple of things that are very unique about its take on the Monster Hunter formula. And one of the big ones that I didn't mention anything about is the fact that on the maps, same way in Monster Hunter World, like there's a big sprawling map for, specific zones. Like you jump back and forth between them and you chase monsters around them or whatever. The maps in Wild Hearts are like really big. They have a lot of verticality. And it's very difficult to actually traverse them. Like if a monster will like jump up a sheer cliff that your character does not have the capability with his mobility of just chasing after. So what you're supposed to do is you have the katakuri equipment, which you use during the hunt, but you also have dragon katakuri, which are other buildables that serve the purpose of just being sort of traversal tools. So like there's what they call a flying vine. It's this big zip line thing. You can literally place it on the ground and then shoot it at a cliffside or a wall or whatever. And then that becomes a path from A to B, even over like very tall structures and whatnot. And the thing is, it's 100% up to you where to place that. Like you can't place it literally anywhere, but you can place it mostly anywhere. And so over time, you essentially build out the structure, like the infrastructure of the map, because that stuff is saved between hunts. Like it doesn't go away. So like you can go back to a map, you can rework it if it's like, oh, this doesn't work, or I've learned the path of this particular monster, or I've learned the route that I like to take. And you literally build yourself like little tools and trinkets and whatnot to make that trek as fast as possible. So like maximize like your speed in terms of chasing monsters, whatever.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's really, really cool, honestly. And in addition to that, they have a little bit of, I won't call it like an invasion mechanic, but they treat other hunters like they treat the multiplayer as if it's like an alternate world. Like you can go to another hunter's world or another hunter can come to your world. And if you go and visit another hunter's world, you see where they've placed all of their stuff. So like your stuff is, not on that map, but you see their placement. So you can learn from another hunter like how they've set up their map to be like, oh, that's actually cool. I didn't know that this was a good pathway to like get from here to here. And you can like copy them that way. So like it's a good way to try to get information on how you should set up a map.
That's really, really cool. Like, it's one of the things in Monster Hunter World or Rise that I kind of forget about, which is when you boil it down, the monsters usually have very set paths, and once you know if they spawn in a certain point, they will then go to the next point and then to their final death space.
Right.
And you are just chasing after them effectively. But adding actual depth to that chase and like mechanical expression through that is really, really cool. It's really cool.
Kings is asking, can a map be shared with the group so that a party can build on each other's work? I'm not 100% sure on that. I do know if you are in another hunter's world or they're in yours, they can still build stuff. So like, it's not like there are restrictions on what they're able to do. But I don't know if their stuff stays behind. So that I'm unsure of. I would need to test that out, but it sounds pretty cool. Yeah, like if you as a group are always hunting together, and then so like you kind of collectively built up the map, and that just stays for like both, like on either your side when you go and go back to that map. I actually like that quite a bit. But yeah, on the point you're saying, like where they kind of optimize hunts in Monster Hunter by like knowing what a monster will do, like for a flying monster, for example, like they'll oftentimes run away by just taking to the sky, and it's like, all right, I can't really chase it. But if you flashbang it when it goes up there, it'll drop out of the sky. At least in World, it did that. I think Rise, they stopped that because like it was too optimized.
Yeah, very efficient to do that.
Yeah, so like they would constantly just flashbang out of the sky and keep it in one place and just demolish it, which is a little abusive, but it worked. There's similar stuff like that. Like there's Dragon Karakuri that will harpoon monsters. So like when they're in the air, it'll like grab them and then pull them back down.
Nice.
It also has like fireworks which acts as a flashbang, so that's also an option. And also there's just the walls, like the bulwarks they call them, right? If you know where the exits are, you can actually build walls in front of the monsters that when it's time for them to run, they hit the wall. And so like it won't stop them completely, but like they'll have to take the time to break it before they can get out, and that'll allow you like extra time to like.
That's really cool.
That's
I
cool.
really, really like that.
Yeah, so it's real fun. On top of that, there was something else that I'm blanking on. Oh, in talks of the multiplayer stuff, there's a revive mechanic.
Okay.
And I don't know why Monster Hunter has never done that. Like you're on a hunt with multiple people. Like if someone dies, like that's it. So like I always feel really guilty when I'm the one who dies in Monster Hunter. Because like you're lessening the rewards for the rest of the team or whatever. You know that they're thinking like, this bastard just screwed us over or whatever in the back of their heads. So you feel guilty about it. For some reason, the fact that you can revive folks does away with that. Because like if I die and get revived, it's like, all right, now I'm awake. But if somebody else dies and you revive them back, it's like, all right, now we're on even footing.
And also gives people more of a chance to kind of like have those moments where you're kind of being the hero for your friends and like reviving them at the right moment, or like keeping the team in the fight and then going to revive them, rather like in Monster Hunter the whole carting mechanic, you only get a certain amount depending on the difficulty, and then if you die the hunt just ends regardless if there's 3 people alive and the last person dies.
Yeah, like you join the hunt after the
that
fact too,
never
and
feels
then, like,
good.
You're the only one dying, like you just screwed it up for a bunch of people who like spent like 30 to 45 minutes trying to hunt the monster. Like it really sucks.
Never feels good. Yeah, for sure. So I like the way they're doing it there. It's cool.
Yeah, it's fun, and like it really makes for like very harrowing situations, because like the kimono, which are the monsters in Wild Hearts, are very ruthless. Like if you're the sole target, they will badger you and hammer you. Like you need to keep moving, you need to keep out of the way. So if someone's down and you're trying to stay still to revive them, you have to be smart about it. You have to know that the monster just flubbed an attack over in this direction. You have to build contraptions to keep you guys safe. So like you'll put up a big wall and then you'll start to revive, and then the monster will like barrel at you but then bounce off the wall. Like you really do come across as like a hero who just saved the day in those instances. And that is actually something very unique that doesn't happen in Monster Hunter. Like unless you're like smacking somebody with a sword after they get like dazed. But that's kind of the only equivalent, I think. But yeah, so like overall, like I'm really, really into Wild Hearts. Like the review came off much more negative than I wanted it to, but it was like I started writing like a lot of the similarities between the two things and how Wild Hearts was kind of doing differently and how some of those things weren't as good. So like that really just read as negative before I kind of tried to wrap everything up, because I realized I was going like way over the word count. So I apologize for that. But I am having fun. I do want to go back to it after I finish up some other things. But that's pretty much it for me, I think.
Hell yeah. I need to check that out. You know I'm a huge Monster Hunter fan.
Yeah.
So I definitely need to go check that out.
It's a good time.
100%.
I'm going to wait a little bit until it's on EA Play, but then I would like to try it out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I got so many other things that I gotta play in the meantime.
Yeah,
so I figure by the time I have free time, then I'll be able to.
Yeah, if I weren't on the review for it, I definitely would not have had the time to sink into it, because I put as much time into it without even having the time to do it. Like I forced myself to get that done. But anybody else want to share what they've been playing, what they've been watching?
Who's going next?
I can just say that, it's really hard for me to talk about what I've been playing because all the things that I've been playing are stuff that I need to finish reviews for. So, I mean, y'all already know I'm doing the review for Like a Dragon Machine, Octopath Traveler 2, and you know what? I think I can just tell you, I'm also working on the Wolong review as well.
Oh, same.
So,
yeah.
all things I can't really talk about here. So. And I've been really boring the last couple weeks. I haven't really been reading or watching or doing anything not related to that. I've been reading old favorites. I've been rereading my Agatha Christie's and, just playing some Stardew.
How often do you reread those like favorite books? Is that like a yearly thing, bi-yearly?
Pretty much. Yeah. I mean, it's basically whenever I need a hit of like those old feelings.
You're scratching yourself like I need a hit. Agatha Christie.
Yeah. It's like, oh God, I've been feeling it again. I need some good words. I need good words.
Wake up in a sweat. You need that Agatha Christie.
Yeah. Scratching.
I think I need to do that for Scott Pilgrim. Like,
it's just like, no, I can quit anytime I want to. I can quit anytime I want to.
Rubbing the ink on your gums. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So yeah, it's like I can leave it anytime I want to, but no. I've been rereading some of the old favorites. Like Death on the Nile is a good one. I think And Then There Were None is a story that everybody needs to read because it is one of the original thriller novels. So everybody puts Agatha Christie in like, she's like, oh yeah, she's a mystery novelist. And I'm like, no, you don't get it. And Then There Were None is one of the greatest psychological thrillers ever written. Like it blows anything. It blows anything Stephen King has written out of the water. And I think Stephen King would agree with me. Put it that way. Well, not everything, Stephen. 99% of Stephen King's bibliography, it blows out of the water.
Yeah.
So just to be fair to the man. But anyway, so this is kind of a thing for me is that I get a little bit like my back up a little bit when people describe like Agatha Christie's and such. It's like, oh yeah, those are mystery novels. Like they mention that in the same breath as like romance novels, for example. Is like, no, you don't get it. These are stories about the worst things human beings are capable of doing to each other. And Agatha was very aware of that when she was writing it. So I don't know where this perception comes from that mystery novels are like cozy. I've literally seen that at Barnes & Noble, like a little description, like one of those little signs on the shelves, cozy mysteries. And I'm like, unless we're talking about who stole the yarn balls, then how is this cozy? Yeah. We're talking about murders.
I mean, I'm not going to...
I'm not going to say that it's because most of the writers in the genre are women. I don't want to say the quiet part out loud, but...
No, that's probably a good point. But I will say, even today, a lot of like true crime, mystery, and whatnot is encapsulated in this sort of desensitized reality. Mm-hmm. Like the fact that it's even a genre was always a little weird to me. Like these are true stories about like very heinous crimes, and they're treated so lightly on like a number of podcasts and a number of TV shows and series, like the Jeffrey Dahmer movie series, for example, on Netflix.
Yeah,
like it's all kind of in good fun, but like no real people were impacted by these murders. So like it doesn't surprise me that they would put that stuff in that category because they keep trying to desensitize people to the horrors of it so that they can market it.
Yeah, I think that's part of it. Now that once true crime became an industry,
Yeah.
which to be honest, that predates Agatha Christie. That goes back to the Jack the Ripper murders, honestly.
Yeah,
And
like
probably
the
even further back
sensationalism
than
of.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Although I will say, I mean, I do think that from what I've seen, at least in the case of the Jack the Ripper murders, the women who were killed in that case, they've usually been treated very respectfully, especially considering they had really horrible lives. I mean, that's one of the things that I consider to be like, I don't know if you can say it's a silver lining, but I mean, we know more about these women and the lives of, lower class and unemployed women in that time period than we ever would have. And it sucks that that's the reason we know. But again, they've always been treated with, a lot of, from what I've seen, they've always been treated with respect and decency. And I mean, considering the horrible way their lives ended. So, I mean, I want to say that that's a good thing that the community has done. They haven't done it with all true crime, like you pointed out, but from what I've seen, at the very least, when that case is discussed, those women have always been, discussed without that kind of sensationalism. Maybe it's because you don't really need to make it sound more horrible than it does.
No.
Yeah.
It's pretty horrific what happened to them. But it's also not knowing who it is, like the boogeyman kind of thing, and like him speculating, and because he sent like anti-Semitic, like there was so much in that whole case. And what I also think is interesting about true crime, because I'm definitely a true crime fan, but most true crime, well, like the majority of true crime fans are women. Like there's something about it that always goes back to it. So women go up like, oh no, Jeffrey Dahmer, he was misunderstood. He's mentally ill. It's like, yeah, but he still did things,
Right.
Like, because he didn't want to be alone. Yeah, sure. But, and it was mostly people of color. So it's like, you can't just like wave it away. Like, oh, he's mentally ill. He's been misunderstood. It's like, he did horrible things.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. So anyway, I've been reading a lot of Agatha Christie lately.
Hell yeah.
This is what happens
sorry,
when you talk about Agatha Christie. It gets dark real fast.
Yeah, things get dark very fast. But yeah, other than that, I haven't really been I haven't really like dedicated a whole lot of time to anything new. It's just been, it's been one of those weeks where I've thought, I don't want to do anything, I don't want to stretch myself or push my boundaries. I want to settle into a nice game of Nancy Drew or Stardew Valley, read my Agatha Christie's. Just nothing exciting, just the comfort food.
Nice. You've earned it, I think. So go right ahead.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, does that wrap things up for you then, Rachel?
Yeah.
All right, Honey Money, Jamaid. Either you
Who's Honey Money? Is it me or you? Who's going first?
You.
Oh goddamn. Okay. I've been rather busy recently. I've been doing a lot of teaching at the university, so I haven't had a lot of time to play a lot of things that aren't for, just like Rachel, what I'm doing for work. But I've been playing a lot of a kind of comfort game for me, which is World of Warcraft. Okay. I've always been a really big fan of World of Warcraft, and kind of recently the new expansion came out, so a lot of my old friends who used to play WoW have got back into it, so that's become my kind of comfort thing to do in the evenings when I have free time, is to just go and play with them and because nowadays gaming is a very social thing for me. I use it to socialize with friends and stuff, so I've been playing a lot of that. And then the more you play, the more it sucks your time. So
yeah, I feel like World of Warcraft definitely sounds like the kind of game that you can just fall into and be like, all right, this is my cozy comfort game. But it also takes a big time investment.
Well, they've changed that. So I actually touched on this in my latest video. Obviously, Blizzard have gone through a lot of issues internally, but also they've gone through a lot of issues within WoW itself. It's been declining quite a lot in recent years. Like the last expansion before this one was considered their worst ever, and their subscribers have been dropping horrifically. And they made a big change, and they've always been saying they're making big changes, but they've actually done that in the next expansion, this one we're in currently. They've done a thing where they're trying to encourage people to not just play WoW and to go do other things. So if people have played MMOs before, you'll be familiar with the term like daily quests, where you have to log in every day to do dailies. Well, they've made it now that they only appear twice a week, so you don't have to log in every day. They've made loads of catch-up mechanics, so people who aren't playing for an extended period can come back and catch up with their friends and be at the same level as them. And they've done those things all over, which I'm really impressed with, and actually does the thing that they were scared of. You'd think that not encouraging people to play your game would mean less people would play your game.
Right.
But with all of my friends, it's encouraged them to even pick it up again.
Yeah, like that makes a lot of sense, actually.
Yeah,
because that is
you don't have that fear of missing out.
Yeah, not that I'm a big MMO guy, but that was always one of the biggest sticking points in jumping into any MMO, is that in order to actually get what you want out of this is the only game you play, and you play it all the time, right? Because I had friends who just threw away their college careers because all they wanted to do was play WoW. But like even like Destiny, which follows the MMO tempo, like it's one of the main reasons why I haven't been able to get back in, even though I very much want to. It's because it's too much of a time investment. If they start to implement stuff where it's like, all right, well, jump in, you can get what you need out of it, go away for like a week, and then come back, and like you're still gonna have momentum or be able to keep pace with like maybe the other folks you play with, that'd be super encouraging to me, because I'm planning on getting into Lightfall.
Yeah, and that's what I do. So I don't play for long stretches because obviously I'm working, I'm traveling all over the place. So I have these long stretches where I'm not playing, and I'm still at the same level, if not ahead, of some of my friends who play every evening. They just play a bit more casually. And like even with it being new to people, I have a friend who's never played before, and I encourage them. A good friend of mine encouraged them to come play because of all the positive changes they've made, and now they are like the most geared. Like they're absolutely loving it, and but they're still able to play it casually, which is really, really encouraging. And I really commend the developers at WoW for actually taking that stance, and I think it's really progressive for the genre as a whole.
Nice. Yeah, like I really hope that spreads.
They've also added a battle pass, which makes you go to this game that has a subscription, but it's also really encouraging because one, you pay a subscription to WoW, so you're paying a battle pass amount every month. The battle pass is free; you don't have to pay any more money.
Okay.
And you have to do things in game to unlock a currency to buy a set of cosmetics. But the most impressive thing I've seen from that is if you see something on it that you want, but you might not be able to play that month, you can freeze that item so it stays there forever until you have enough to get it. So they're encouraging you to just like, if you want it, we'll keep it here. It's not like a timed thing.
Nice.
And just move on. And I think that's really good battle pass design. And I'm just really impressed with what the WoW team are doing. Not Blizzard as a whole, but specifically the WoW team.
No, that's actually super interesting because like that's a lot of what the battle passes go for, is that fear of missing out. It's like, get this thing while it's in the store, and then afterwards, if you're not done in time, it's gone. So like there's rather than just saying you can get anything at any time you want, which I think Halo Infinite's battle pass worked like that, which like kudos to them for that decision, despite all the other problems. So I guess one step in the right direction. Like they could just leave it so that everything stays there, but like I get it. Like they do want to push people to spend money because like they kind of need the money to get the job done.
Yeah,
but that's actually very nice that they're like, if someone wants something specific, that I only care about that. Let me lock that in place, and I'll get to it when I can. I like that idea.
It's positive things. It's all really good.
Nice. Okay, does that wrap things up for you, or you?
I finished watching The Strain, which is Guillermo del Toro's old vampire show.
Yes. I've heard nothing but good things about that, but I've not seen it.
Really good first two. I can't remember if there's 4 or 3 seasons. I think there are 4. Everything but the last season, absolute gold, as with most shows. But the last season, it takes a quite heavy shift in what it's kind of about and aiming for. And there's I can't say it because it's a spoiler for the entire show, so I'm not going to. But like, there are things that happened in that show that actually are like jaw-dropping that I would never see in another show, and I'd be like, well, how is this happening? And I can't even hint at it to people who have seen it, but like, they'll know if they've seen it. So yeah, I'd highly recommend it though, because the last season isn't trash. It's just not where I thought it was going to go, but that's fine. It's fine for things to shift and change. But yeah, that's me. I've been watching The Strain, playing WoW, doing my work, all that good stuff.
Nice. Good on you. Okay, Honey Money, that just leaves you. What do you want to share with the class?
I watched The Whale. Listen.
Okay.
Everyone should watch it. It gets you right in the feels. I cried like a baby.
Can you give me a synopsis? Ooh. Because like I know The Whale is an Oscar bait Brendan Fraser pick, but I have no idea what it's actually about. It's this guy he's 600 pounds, right? He's a big guy. And that's the thing. The movie isn't about too much. There's not like they're always in his apartment basically. Like, it's a very simple movie that way. But he has, I don't know how much I should, because they like tell you these things as you go. So like telling you all of like, oh, this has happened. This is kind of, but there's a reason why, as for I assume most people who go that lengths of gaining that much weight, and he doesn't leave his apartment and stuff like that. He teaches online college stuff, and he always says that his camera's broken and stuff like that. And he starts his daughter, who's what is it, like 16, and she seems like a fucking monster. Like she's terrible. She's like, I'm gonna tell someone you raped me, and like she does things like that all the time. So it I don't know how to. It's very much just these are human people. It's very much just that kind of movie. And I think he says at one point in the movie is that I just want to know that something I did in life was something good. And that's basically it. Because you follow, he's dying, obviously, because he's just sitting and eating and doing nothing else. He's not moving anywhere. But yeah, and you go through why he's basically depressed and how he ended up the way he did, and stuff like that. And it's just nice. Brendan Fraser does such a good job. It's like, sure, Oscar bait and stuff like that, but it is a fantastic movie. Like it's deserving.
Oh yeah, I think it really is, because there were so many things like father and daughter stuff and like relationship stuff. He has this friend Liz, like she's a nurse as well, but they're just friends, and that she comes over to check on him like every day and does his grocery shopping and stuff. And she's this like hard woman. She's like, you need to do this, you did, like she's just like, and she's, I'm gonna stab you, and he's like, what are you gonna do? My internal organs are like 2 feet in. You're not gonna do anything. So they have this weird relationship that's also very cute, because she really cares about him, but she shows it in like that kind of frustrated, angrily way.
Right. Yeah, because you gotta imagine, like, if you do care for somebody and all they're doing is kind of destroying themselves, like that's gotta weigh on you if you can't actually get them to stop.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
He won't go to the hospital or anything. For reasons.
Like there's was it an MTV show, I think, or was it True TV? That My 600 Pound Life series, where like they followed a number of people who were kind of in that sort of situation. Like it was like a kind of mini documentary series that followed a bunch of people who were like very, very much overweight, and then they were trying to get them like medical assistance and then put them on a path to try and bring that down. And like some people were successful, some people weren't. But it was actually a very interesting show. Like that's the first thing I thought of when you mentioned like that he was literally 600 pounds in this movie. So I'm wondering if this is based on that or on like an actual person at all. Like, do you know if this is like autobiographical or it's just fully fiction?
No, I think it's fully fiction.
I've heard Brendan Fraser took the role because it's shares similarities with his experiences he had in life. I could be paraphrasing and I could be completely wrong. But Brendan Fraser, I think, lost a loved one and gained a load of weight, and that's why he
he's a
fell
big
out of
guy.
Hollywood. And I
He was
heard that
also assaulted, and his career ended because of that.
Yeah,
So
yeah, that's so
Yeah.
grim. So like I think I've heard somewhere, and again could be completely wrong, that he took this role because it spoke to him so much, and it was similar to something he'd experienced, and he wanted to tell that story, which is really nice. Which, in a way, obviously, you can have a powerful performance from any actor or actress, but when you know that the actor has also been through similar experiences, I think it hits a little different, which is interesting to see. But I definitely need to see it. I've been putting it off because I haven't hit my monthly cry time, so I need to wait because that's going to break me. That movie.
I mean, yeah, but on the other hand, I cry at everything, so I don't know if I'm a good. It's just like as soon as it opens, I'm
yeah, I know I would cry. I know I'm gonna cry because it's Brendan Fraser, and I grew up with Brendan Fraser.
Oh yeah.
And so like seeing him go from like happy-go-lucky in The Mummy and all the other movies I saw him in growing up, and then have him be just doing a serious dramatic role at all. It's like it would not take much for him to make me cry.
No, and it's just that father-daughter relationship for me as well. It's like, oh my god, So yeah, I highly recommend it. Like it's very much like, hey, you might get a bit depressed. You will feel the feels probably. Just be ready for that. It's not, Brendan Fraser in The Mummy. It's not bad. Also, I watched Knock at the Cabin twice.
That's the
because I watched
Shyamalan?
Yeah, it was surprisingly good.
Okay,
I feel like that's the last couple of things he's done. Is like I thought you were finished, old man, but I know, okay. he still got some stuff in him.
I mean, if you saw the beach one,
Old
movie called Old.
Yeah,
I hated that.
You hated that? I actually thought that was okay.
I hated it. It was, it was absolute garbage to me. I was like, this is so dumb. I was just thinking, this is so dumb. What is happening? It's so, are we done with this?
I really liked it.
I hated it.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. No, go ahead, Joe.
I was just gonna say, like, I've always had this weird thought about M. Night Shyamalan that he's making movies in the wrong era, because I feel like his sort of like weird, like spooky, like his attempts at weird spooky aesthetics would be very assisted by like some of the limitations in older movies. Sort of like the limits on how many different cameras, the limits on camera size, the limits on set size, and even lack of computer graphics. I feel like if he had some of those limitations, he would be able to make like much more interesting spooky films. But instead, he's making movies with like CGI and these giant budgets, and it almost feels like it's giving him carte blanche to go overboard. Like I felt that way in what was it? The Village. That's the one with
I'm not sure.
Yeah, because I felt like that one would have been, I mean, it would have been, I think it would have been cooler, if it's just, been like restrained and, a lot more restraint and a lot less ability to move around, if that makes sense.
I think you're absolutely right, because I think his first couple of hits were much more like indie in tone. Like Unbreakable, for example, which I think is a fantastic movie, is very subdued, despite it, essentially being kind of a low-key superhero movie.
Yeah.
And then like after that, they were throwing money at him, and then you got a bunch of crap. These more recent films, I think it's his production company. Like I don't think they have big budgets, and he's funded them like out of his own pocket. So I think they have returned a little bit to be a bit more budget minded. Because like Old, for example, I don't think had like a ton of CGI. There's like maybe a little bit of stuff in it. And Knock at the Cabin, I think doesn't most of that take place in a cabin? Like I don't think that's like that couldn't have been like super expensive to shoot.
I think I heard anybody say yes.
I'm fixing my blinds.
It's okay.
Fixing the blinds.
Yeah, she's in distance fixing her blinds. But like, so I think you hit the nail on the head, Rachel. Is that like him getting to play with like a ton of money has kind of diluted what he's good at, and so now that he kind of scorched earth with that and has gone back to like more of an indie feel, like he's starting to find his footing again.
Well, because I've seen, whenever I see like older horror movies, like The Wind, for example, that's a 20s silent horror film. I think, I don't think of M. Night Shyamalan, but like that's the first movie that comes to mind when I think of like, how he could have made horror movies back in the day. Because like a horror movie which, is made with a lot of limitations, like the fact that there's no sound, for example, but it's still terrifying, I think, because of the subject matter and the way it was shot.
Yeah.
I also think he's a victim of his own success in the sense of like the films that have done commercially the best are the ones that have the biggest twists. And I think that's what either him or his producers or whatever have laser focused on, because a lot of his movies are quite psychological. And I always find that the psychological element of a movie or any kind of horror is diminished when you get an answer. When you suddenly understand how those things work, it's suddenly not scary anymore. And then he just keeps going. And then he sometimes tries to put another twist in, and it just seems kind of forced. I always find the first half, 45 minutes of an M. Night Shyamalan movie is its peak, and then it just goes downhill. But I haven't seen his latest movie, so I can't comment on that.
I think it's based on a book or novel, so it's not completely his, I guess.
Yeah,
I don't know how he usually works, but
probably why I think I'd like to see it, because it might rein in some of his more eccentric traits with movie making.
Suggestion: if Mr. Shyamalan is making this, make a movie without a twist. We'll be waiting tensely for 2 hours for a twist that doesn't come. It would be torment.
Yeah, I want
he's just gonna cast himself in it somewhere, as he always does.
Yeah, that's what he does.
Yeah, and I'm just like, can we like in Knock at the Cabin? He had such a small. I was like, that's fine, but like in the old movie, it was like this guy on the hill. And it was like, okay, is it? So you just need to be in it. So
he's always done that. Way. He's always done that. I can't be mad at him.
Yeah, but you can do that in a way it's not pulling so much focus. Because in Knock at the Cabin, it was such a short thing. I was like, yeah, it's fine. But in Old, I was like, oh, we're just watching you for some time now.
Or in Signs, he's the dude that kills the main character's wife. That's
Oh wow!
Like by accident.
I haven't seen that one yet.
Like he's one of the main people in Lady in the Water, if I remember correctly. Like it's like an ensemble cast, and he's just one of them. Like he's in the whole movie.
Yeah, and bless him, he's not the strongest actor in the world.
No.
He definitely feels like the director.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'm not totally against M. Night Shyamalan. I think he gets a lot more hate than he deserves.
No, he
deserves
a lot of hate because of what he did to The Last Airbender. He very much deserves that.
Oh yeah.
But like, if he wants to claw his way out, okay, I'm fine with that. But you have to earn it.
Yeah, he pissed off the wrong fandom, right?
He needs to earn his way back.
Yeah. So I totally forgot he did that.
So he's starting his path. That's fine. He'll get there one day.
Also, just more Poker Face. That show, I do feel a bit of, okay, we kind of need to stop this show a bit now, because it does become the same every new episode. And it's like, we're getting to too many episodes, I feel. Like, I needed to stop at some point, because I know, okay, there's going to be this, and this, she's going to be, then she's going to solve it, and it's like, it's very predictable now.
So it's before like it was a sitcom.
Yeah. But it was predictable before, but you were like, oh, how are they going to do this? And like, what is her role in this? And now it's just like, oh, I can see what's going to happen straight away. It's like, okay. I still enjoy it. Yeah, I still enjoy it. It's very chill, but it's becoming a bit too easy. Ludo. And just rewatching Severance with a bunch of people. That show is it's so good. Because I hope we're getting the next season this year. I think
I want to say I heard that.
Remember.
Yeah, but I cannot confirm where.
No, say. because I think I looked it up after I watched it last year, and it was like, yeah, it's already planned. So I was like, great. Finished Shadow Warrior 3. Fun gameplay, hate the writing.
Yeah, I was gonna. I
But
actually
I hate it so much.
reviewed that.
Yeah, I know.
And I gave it a lot of shit for its kind of just all over the place use of just Asian in general referencing. So like
Yeah.
as an Asian person, like how did you take kind of what like their scattershot of references?
I mean, they were confusing because I was like, that doesn't make any. I was more like, I wasn't as, I was more offended by the writing.
Uh-huh.
Just like, it's so bad. It's just terrible. Than the like Asian, because it was like, yeah, this like you guys you don't know what you're doing, do you?
Yeah, like it's like you didn't
like,
look up anything
yeah.
in regards to any of this stuff you borrowed.
No. So I was like, that's okay, that doesn't make any sense. So I was more just like sitting there going, yeah, that doesn't make any sense. Like but that's Japanese. That's not okay, but he's Chinese, isn't he? Like what?
Right.
I was more confused about it because I don't understand what the point is, because Japanese culture, Chinese, like they have enough stuff in them that you could take so much from it. You don't have to like mix and match. I don't get it. So I was more confused about it. But yeah, I was just constantly offended by the bad writing. It's just like, it's terrible. And he just never stops.
Yeah, he's one of those, and like we've gotten a couple
Yeah.
of them in recent weeks. But he's one of those protagonists who is always quipping, and he's supposed to be irreverent and funny because of it.
Yeah.
But he just comes off as just very grating and annoying.
Yeah, constantly. But yeah, I finished it in one stream, so that was fine. It was like, yeah. I started new Tales from the Borderlands. Because someone in chat told me, oh, you have this game. And I'm like, no, that isn't out yet. And like, yeah, it came out last year. I was like,
that came out a while ago.
Wait, what? Wait, what? I have heard no one talk about it.
That is true. Yeah, that game kind of came and went.
Yeah.
The first one is like very much loved, I think.
Yeah, it is. It has Troy Baker and Laura Bailey, right? I understand why this game has been missed and forgotten. Sad to say, because it looks great. The voice acting is good, but the writing is absolute trash. Because yeah, like I would like they do the acting well, and it looks fantastic. You know. But listening to what they're saying, I'm so bored and uninterested. So I just like tune it out eventually.
Mm-hmm. And that's like the whole thing. Like it's a story-driven narrative game. Like so, if you're tuning out the story, then what are you even doing?
Exactly. So I'm just sitting there going, "What's the point of this game? I don't understand it." Like it feels very flat and generic, and not. I'm gonna finish it, but it's not good. It's not good. And also looking at the Steam scores, you can kind of tell that no one likes this game.
Oh, that's
which is sad. Yeah, it is sad. It is Gearbox and not Telltale, I guess, but...
okay. So, yeah, I was going to ask, actually, because, Telltale imploded and whatnot, but this continued to get a sequel. So, like, it's just in-house. Gearbox is just doing this themselves.
Yeah, as far as I know. And it's still the same style. It looks like the old one. So, I don't know.
So I'm assuming it's the same writing team as regular Borderlands and like Tiny Tina's Wonderlands and whatnot, because I've been out of love of their particular shtick since like the second game. Like I really, really, really like the second game, but everything after that has felt like post-mortem, like they don't know what to do with those characters or that world anymore. And there's a movie coming, so let's see how that goes.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's just wacky randomness that hits. Because I've been sitting there playing it, going like, "Who is this for? I don't understand who is this game for? Like, I have no idea because I do not understand. Because they're just trying to hit so many things in the comedy, and it hits none of them for me. So I'm just like, okay.
Sad.
And they just never. It's the same there. They just sit there.
I felt that way about Borderlands for years.
I think a lot of people do.
Yeah. Just the series in general, like it's I played the third one. The second one actually physically hurts me to play. Something about it makes me motion sick, so it actually makes me ill. But after I really enjoyed the first one, second and third, and all of the in betweens. I have that feeling of like, who is this for? Like for me, the human never really hits. And unless you really like looter shooters, like,
and I really do.
Or people enjoy the humor. You know, people have different senses of humor, which is just completely fair.
Like that's the thing. I really liked. Like one, I don't feel like had much humor. Like it had barely any story in it. I liked the gameplay loop. But two actually took the vestiges of story in one and fleshed it out in a way that I actually found interesting. Like I found Handsome Jack to be a funny antagonist.
Handsome Jack is a good villain. I'll agree with that.
Yeah, I found the new set of Vault Hunters to be fairly interesting. Like, you know, they're not the most charismatic, but they're fairly good caricatures to play off of the situation that was going on. So I came to really like them in that story and that world. But then 3 was just more of it, and at some point it just went like, okay, yeah, I don't like any of this anymore. Like I don't know what flipped specifically, but it was like maybe too much time had just passed. Like I'm a little older now, so I don't know.
Definitely.
Because they do a reference to, was it Skylanders? Because I just know my nephew was into those. That's the whole thing in New Tales from the Borderlands, and I'm like, I have no connection to this at all. And they have Vaultlanders, and like you can collectibles, and they actually use them in the game. It's like we gotta find. It's like, who is this for? Like I don't get it.
Skylander fans have already grown up, and they've haven't they cancelled Skylanders years and years and years ago?
Yeah, that industry, the toys to life thing, kind of was a flash in the pan.
Who greenlit that joke?
I don't get it. It's a big thing as well. It's not a small thing. It's like they have whole scenes with it and talking about it, and like it comes up and I'm like, I don't care about this. Like I was an adult when this came out. I was like, I don't give a shit. But they're like, oh no, we gotta fight, and you gotta have honor, and it's like that's the whole thing, and I'm like, ugh. So yeah, I don't understand who is the audience for this game. I have no idea.
It seems like no one is.
I really don't.
Kind of why no one's talking about it.
Yeah, and no one likes it.
Sad. Borderlands should probably just stop at this point.
Yeah,
like, I've said this for a long time. Borderlands is the only good game Gearbox has ever made. And
what other games have they made? Yeah, what else have they made?
They've made a lot of failures. They made what was the Overwatch Battleborn?
Battleborn, yeah.
They made Battleborn?
Battleborn is Gearbox. They made Aliens Colonial Marines, which was a fire.
To be fair, weren't they like one of 5 studios that made Aliens Colonial Marines?
But it was their decision to take it and try to finish it. Same with Duke Nukem Forever. They were like, oh, we can finish this. And then they did. And then we got Duke Nukem Forever. So it's like, what are y'all doing over there? Borderlands has been kind
Rest in peace to the Duke.
Yeah.
Borderlands has been giving them
coming back
this like line of credit that they have just been wasting. And like Borderlands itself, I feel like is being wasted. Like the time for that specific franchise, I think has ended, but they're somehow still able to monetize it. Like I don't get what the appeal is for it today, but like I think 3 sold pretty well. And Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, I think, wasn't like a terrible seller either. So like folks are still attached to that. But like it's given them the ability to publish other people's games. They also published crap. What was that PS5 exclusive early launch game? The one that looked like Destiny but was melee based.
Oh, I know the one you're talking about.
Yeah, I can't remember the name of that, but like that was them who published it, and that was also kind of a big flop. Like whatever they put their hands in just doesn't seem to go well. Godfall, yes.
Oh yeah.
So like, I'm. Are they laundering money? Like how are they still as many studios that close with like actually good games? Like what's going on? I'm very confused by Gearbox's whole thing.
Yeah,
Did they also publish Outriders? Tariel mentioned that. Did they publish that?
Did they?
No, I think that's in reference to what's the PS5
Oh, okay, they were
mainly.
okay. They were saying if the game. No, yeah, it was
Yeah, 'cause I was
Godfall,
like-
not Outriders.
No, they didn't publish Outriders. Yeah.
Okay, because that one was actually people liked that and seemed to be okay, but was kind of
Yeah.
double A in quality. But like, yeah, Gearbox didn't touch it, so I guess it's safe.
We know what Casey's opinion on Gearbox is.
I agree.
I will say, I just looked it up. Weird. I didn't know this. I didn't know apparently they made Samba de Amigo.
Gearbox did?
From what it's
what
on
that
their
is, I
list,
think.
yeah. I mean, it was developed by Sonic Team, but I think they participated in it in one way or another. Oh, they
Very
made the Wii
strange.
version. That's what it was. They
Oh,
ported
okay.
the Wii version. Okay. I was like, what is Samba de Amigo doing here? Oh, thank
that to
God.
be
That
a
means they're
bug.
not making the sequel. Okay. Thank goodness.
That's true. And just last, I started Atomic Heart on
Okay.
Game Pass. I played 30 minutes. I could not continue because it makes me incredibly motion sick. There is no FOV slider.
Huh.
There are almost no accessibility options. And it keeps moving around like this. Like even when you're just talking to someone, it goes like the camera just moves. You cannot turn on camera shake to 0. You have to have it on a little bit, which I'm just why? That's so
So
weird.
you can adjust it, but you can't make it 0.
Yeah. No, you can't make it 0.
Weird.
Yeah. And people are upset, as far as I understood from Reddit, that there are no FOV sliders because it feels like it's very zoomed in. Like it's not like at 80 or something. It's like at 70 or something, or even less. So it's, and once again, the main character very unlikable to me. He's also a
Yeah, I've
person that
heard that.
never shuts up.
Yeah, I've
he
heard that
never
about
shuts
him.
up. And I'm just like, dude, shut up.
I've never
Can we
been
have
less
just a little
excited for a
quiet
game.
time?
Honestly,
No, I mean,
like
people.
before
It feels.
it came out or after it came out.
I didn't hear about it for ages, and then suddenly saw the big marketing buzz recently, and
Yeah.
I'm just like, this doesn't look exciting to me. This just looks like not Borderlands, BioShock without any of the like charm,
Yeah,
and
Soviet.
like
Bioshock.
Soviet BioShock, but
Yeah.
and I was just like, and like most of its marketing was based on those sexy robot women.
Yeah, you
I
don't
was
want
like,
6 hours of sexy robot. time.
Yes, 6-hour sex scene with the
They don't
robot
have a
women.
face, which also creeps me out because it's like people are so horny for these robots. They have no faces.
Well,
I
and
don't
also,
wanna
like,
get it.
all of the robot designs of I know they're going for a very clinical, Soviet kind of thing, but none of the robot designs interest me. Nothing from the trailer interested me, and I was just like, this. I call a lot of games this. For me, Hogwarts Legacy is the same thing. Gameplay wise, it's very much a game. It's what I would define as that is definitely a game.
Mm-hmm.
It's playable, and that's fine. But I'm not getting it because I need someone else.
You know what's funny? Like the games that I think of when I'm like, ooh, cool, atmospheric first-person shooter games like that are very Russian in nature. Both of the series that I came up with were made by Ukrainian studios. Like, I don't want to bring current events into this necessarily. It's only because this podcast will go on for a very long time. But the Metro series was made by 4A Games, Ukrainian studio.
Mhm.
The Stalker series made by a Ukrainian studio. It's like, how are you making games that are better? How are you making better Soviet games than an actual Russian development studio?
It's just the way it is.
You know, in a weird way, I think it makes sense that an outside party looking at a certain community can maybe nail them the way the rest of the world sees them versus how they see themselves, especially in a society like Russia, which is very full of propaganda, etc. Not saying America is somehow different than that. There's tons of propaganda here, but just pointing it out. But yeah, honestly, I wanted to try it because it was supposed to be one of those tent poles for Microsoft's. Like, I think it is exclusive, right? Or is it that's on PS5?
On Game Pass, I believe.
Yeah.
It's on Game Pass, yeah.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
day and date Game Pass joint. So based on that and like the value it would bring to the service, I was intrigued by it. But like, yeah, other than that caveat, I don't think I was at all interested in it. I'm a big BioShock fan. So like I would like to see more BioShock-like experiences, but that one in particular seems very generic. Like there's no iconography that I can latch onto other than the sexy robot ladies, and that's just not a thing I'm into. So strange, but
But there's 6 hours of it, Casey.
So is that a real thing? Like you can have it's a 6 hour
I believe
sex
so.
scene?
There's something about it, because that's all the headlines at least are like, yeah, there is actually 6 hours of it with the twin ballerina robot ladies.
Not to get too much into it, it is probably just a pre-rendered cutscene that is loopable.
Yeah.
And they've put a 6-hour cap on it. So you can't watch it for more than 6 hours. So then they can have the headline, there is a 6-hour sex cutscene.
But now someone has to go and confirm whether it's that or something else. So I nominate.
No, I'm sure they will.
I nominate.
And I'm
Jamaica
also
to
sure that
go.
someone will.
I got nothing going on in my life. I'll do it.
Someone's going to mod
for
the
science.
game.
We
They're
have to
break
find
the
out
cap.
now.
Yeah.
I'll be doing it anyway. I might as well report on it.
The other Frost in the chat says, I think the game being compared to BioShock was a mistake by the studio. It's closer to Legendary. Do you guys remember Legendary?
No.
No?
No.
Got a big Game Informer cover back in the day. I never played it, but it was a mess of like a... It was like an action post-apocalyptic third-person adventure game, something like that.
I don't know. I don't.
I don't
You
know.
could be speaking
This
French
doesn't
for all I
sound
know.
familiar.
It doesn't? Like this... Oh my God. Back in the day, it had a lot of hype. Like folks were like, oh, Legendary's going to be legendary. And now no one can remember it.
Ooh. What platform did it come out on? Do you remember?
No, I do not remember.
Okay.
I just know it had a big Game Informer cover.
Legendary on Steam 2008. That is a big tentacle next to Big Ben. Yeah. I'm going to stop looking at this.
Yeah,
Probably for the best.
I don't need to fall down this route. I don't need to fall down this rabbit hole.
So okay, does that wrap things up for you, Honey Money? Or anything else you'd like to share?
That's it.
Okay, thank you guys for sharing your times with us. We're gonna jump into our next topic. Not sure how long we'll be on this one in particular because we do got to get to the Sony stuff. But first, I'll ask, I guess, are there any big Lord of the Rings fans here? Because I wouldn't count myself as a big one, but Jamate had his finger up. Rachel says a little wee bit.
Probably not as much. I'm not gonna like claim the title of Tolkien
Here
fan,
goes.
but I do like Tolkien.
Jamate's gonna show off his not weeb, but his geek cred.
I'm getting all my books.
Oh damn! The
Got
tomes.
my limited edition folio versions of all of the Lord of the Rings books.
And The Hobbit, it looks like.
The Hobbit, Silmarillion. The one that's not here is in my bedroom because I'm reading it. I'm a big Tolkien fan. I'm also aware of its problems as well.
Okay, so I guess we can start by getting your temperature on this announcement. Like new Lord of the Rings movies on the way. Okay, you're big into that.
Yeah, I'm keen. I didn't really buy into the headlines of that they're going to remake the trilogy because that is like the dumbest move.
Yeah, that'd be so bad
ever.
But it's also not a thing you'd imagine a studio wouldn't do.
No, I could see them doing it, but I also think they understand how much of a cash cow the Lord of the Rings still is, and how much money they probably make re-releasing all of those versions, and how militant the fans of those movies are. That in some ways they're worse than the fans of the books. So I don't think they touched that.
What you're saying, like the fans of the movies, and
Yeah,
the
very,
books
very
not,
different,
they
very
don't mix
separate.
or not.
It was one of the things with Rings of Power that a lot of the complaints were coming from the movie fans because they were expecting it to be more like the movies. But the Rings of Power has been, for all of its problems that it had, was pushing for a lot more kind of ideas from the books. But no, I'm happy. It's interesting that now two companies now have the rights to publish Tolkien things. So Warner Brothers, was it Warner Brothers? Whoever's acquired the rights to Warner Brothers now have the rights to do more things, and also Amazon still own the rights to all of the stuff they're doing with Rings of Power. That's great. Competition breeds like betterment. They're gonna make better products because they now have competition, or they're gonna do the opposite and just absolutely push shit out just so they can get out first.
Yeah, I mean, Jamie, you know what happened with the Bond movies, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So I'm afraid that's what's gonna end up happening.
And that's very likely. But as long as they pick and choose their stuff correctly, there are some really, really cool things they can do with it. Like, I hope they don't touch anything to do with the Peter Jackson movies at all. Like, I hope they don't, like the Rings of Power has been trying to do, like making lots of references to Gandalf and all of these characters that don't belong in those stories at that time.
Mm-hmm.
There's rumors that they're going to do the war on Angmar, which is where the Witch King, where he was formed, and how he became the Witch King of Angmar, and it's got some really interesting characters, like Glorfindel, which is one of like a fan favorites from the books. He hasn't been seen in the movies. Like, he was the person who picked up Frodo after he was stabbed by the Morgul blade and rode him to Rivendell, and like there's this big thing, and he's a legendary character, like, and he wasn't seen in the movies, and he's a huge part of the Angmar war. So they could do some really cool. There's some really cool stories that they can do. I just hope they don't just pander to like audiences a bit like the Rings of Power did. That's just my opinion.
No, your opinion, who I think is probably one of the most valuable here, because I like the Lord of the Rings movies, but literally just the movies. Like,
oh, I love the movies.
I'm generally
it's what got me into it.
not a fan of like the fantasy genre in general, but I like the story that was told in the Lord of the Rings. But like I watched maybe 20 minutes of the first episode of Rings of Power and was like, no, not
Fair.
for me.
I don't blame you. Like, I absolutely adore the movies. They're what got me into it. Like, as a kid, I barely read because I really struggled because of my dyslexia. And just like with like Harry Potter, the movies were a gateway for me to have the motivation to read. And then, do you know, people get that feeling of they read a book and then they watch the movie of that, like the adaptation of it, and they're disappointed because all the details have been taken out. I get the opposite. I watch the movie, fall in love with the world. Then when I read the book, I get so much more
details.
out of it. I get like more of the world. And I don't do that intentionally. It's just what happens. And that's what happens with Lord of the Rings. It's allowed me to pick up on all of these extra details. And then when I go back and watch the movies, instead of being angry, I like all of the tiny references they make. I now get them. And I'm like, oh, that's awesome. That's really cool that they've done that. So I hope they just do that.
They did say that they are talking with like Peter Jackson and some of the other creatives who were instrumental in the actual
Philippa,
movies.
I know they're talking to them. They said they've been consulted on every step of the way. And I think people might be reading into that too much and thinking that Peter Jackson and the team at Weta are coming back to do these new movies.
Yeah, like, as much as that's not a possibility then.
Fucking awesome. I hope it's true. Like, Peter Jackson got absolutely shafted on The Hobbit. Not as much as Guillermo del Toro, but it would be really good to allow the team at Weta and Peter Jackson and the rest of the team to have the breathing room to make a new entry into Middle Earth and have the time to actually create it and make it good. And I think they do a really good job of doing that. It's just I'm worried about corporate greed, which is a sentence that could follow most things we say nowadays.
I mean, that's the whole reason this is happening anyway.
Yeah,
I enjoyed my cereal this morning, but I'm worried about corporate greed. Yeah, so we'll see. I'm excited. I think good things could come, but I also think terrible things could come. Yeah.
I'm somewhat optimistic because I feel like there are enough how do I put this? Like, before the MCU came along, I was afraid there weren't enough like Marvel fans to think that the film industry was saturated with them enough to be able to have like, put it this way, on any given film set, I feel like you were not likely to find a diehard Marvel fan who would have been like, no, Iron Man would never have done this, or no, this is what happens in Iron Man number 28 or something like that. Whereas I think there are so many Tolkien fans by comparison. Like there's so many people who grew up not just with the movies, but with the books. But people like GM8 who who started with the movies and got into the books. There are so many Tolkien fans that I feel like a lot of what Amazon and Warner Bros are going to be pitched is stuff that is not necessarily film related. It's stuff that deeply from people who are deeply passionate about the books and certain stories in the books. And I will say, I mean, when you come to the Tolkien universe, I mean, you could not possibly be coming to a better universe for exploring other things, because the destruction of the Ring of Power was absolutely not the only fun story in that universe. Like there are, like they said, there are so many stories in this universe that they haven't told on film, and I'm hoping that they will be able to get enough good pitches from Tolkien fans that we're not gonna their only option is not, let's just do something really greedy and really stupid,
like the Hobbit trilogy.
Yes, exactly.
And I think the failure of
that didn't start in greed, I don't think. But anyway, go on. Sorry.
The perceived failure of the Hobbit, and then the reaction to the Rings of Power, I hope is going to be a sign for the executives to ask what went wrong with this. They might not have the answers themselves, but Tolkien fans have the answers for why those things are considered bad.
Well, is the Rings of Power considered bad though? Because I haven't really gotten a clear,
let's go look it up,
temperature between whether people really liked it or really hated it. Because I feel like I've heard from both camps.
Yeah, same.
Let's go do the generic thing. Look it up on Rotten Tomatoes. 83% average.
Mm-hmm.
Is that viewer or critic?
That's critic, and viewer 38%. So a lot of fans hating that, and I could definitely see an executive at Warner Brothers using Rotten Tomatoes as a gauge for success.
Yeah.
So that was sarcasm.
And the thing is, it's on a streaming platform, which means there's no ironclad way to gauge how much money it brought them. They spent so much money on it, right? It's one of the most expensive TV
the most expensive
ever
I
made.
think it's the most expensive piece of media ever produced.
So and the fact that it's on a streaming service, which is notoriously bad at gauging how much return you get on the investment, it's I don't know what they're planning to do next.
Yeah, I don't know. I just hope as a fan, and also just as someone who wants to see good shows or movies, I just hope they stop just pandering to the movies and start just going, this is an interesting story. We know people are going to watch this because it's Middle Earth. Let's just tell this story really well, and we'll see.
Can I pitch something to you, Jamie?
Yeah, go for it.
Just I'm thinking in terms of what you could do that is really interesting and really out there. I'm something that they haven't touched on. Every time I've seen a Lord of the Rings related visual property of some kind, they're always overdoing the elves as these very ethereal, beautiful, wonderful, perfect beings. Whereas the entire early Silmarillion, which by the way, I got to credit my old writing instructor, my old boss, for getting me into that, because I felt ashamed that she basically guilted me into reading the Silmarillion or giving it another try. But the whole opening bit of it is this gigantic family feud between a whole bunch of different elves who do horrible, rotten things to each other. You could seriously make a friggin' elf soprano series out of this.
Yeah. You could make a show.
I would love it.
Just the Silmarils and all of the feuds happen with them.
Feanor as Tony Soprano.
Oh my god!
Yeah, that would work.
So good. I'd watch the shit out of that.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm just pitching this to you right now. You could totally do that, and it would be awesome. And we didn't know more of this, elves are so ethereal and beautiful. No, they're as full of shit as any other race in Middle Earth. Thank you.
If anything, more full of shit.
Yes.
But the question is, as a Tolkien fan and someone who knows that from the Silmarillion, that's really exciting. But would a Warner Brothers executive, if you just went The Sopranos but elves, would that? To me, I'm keen. That sounds great. But would they go? Oh, but where's Gandalf? They'd go,
Yeah.
"Where's the
Yeah.
Hobbit?
Yeah.
Like, why
Yeah.
are the hobbits in Rings of Power? Like, there's no point. Why is
I mean, to be fair, you could bring Galadriel into it too, because she's part of that family.
Yeah, I'm definitely like, and there's going to be thousands of these pitches of just like movies, TV shows, of just things that could work, and I'm worried that corporate greed would mean that they just go, yeah, but if it doesn't involve any of these key characters, I've heard thrown around, young Aragorn is a story that people are wanting to do. Yeah, Aragorn has had an interesting life, but it's not like that's just because it's Aragorn and people know his name and the character. The same with like doing anything with Gandalf, or I know another one that fans would like to see that I'm not too hot on is the War of the North. There's a video game with the same title.
Yeah, I remember that game was actually good, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it's basically, it takes place at the same time as the destruction of the ring, but it's about all of the different places in Middle Earth and what's happening to them while the war is happening outside of Minas Tirith and stuff like that. I don't like the idea of that because it's gonna give them a lot of chances to go like, oh, look, a returning character has walked into our village and is stopping by for an episode, and they're going to talk in a tavern and then they're going to leave. Rather than introducing new characters and telling new stories, I think they need to look at it as a way to be like, how can we, they're never going to do this, but how can we recapture the lightning of Peter Jackson's trilogy and do it again with a new story, just in the same kind of world, rather than, hey guys, look, it's Ian McKellen doing a cameo as Gandalf.
They would have to get away from exactly that, because as you know, ubiquitous as Tolkien is and as influential as Tolkien is, the mass media appeal of the Lord of the Rings wasn't because people were fans of Tolkien. Like, I didn't know who Tolkien was before Lord of the Rings. So if you're telling me like there are good stories in that world that come from him, they need to be like, all right, this is a good story with good characters, etc. Let's convert that into film and not be so obsessed with trying to pull on the success of the last thing that they did, because that's what corporations do. Like, they don't know any other way. They're like, if X
it's not
worked,
even a risk as well. Like, there is no risk if you make just Angmar. You do the story of Angmar, the Witch King, Glorfindel, all of this. It's a fantastic story, and if you put the Lord of the Rings Angmar, that shit's gonna sell. Everyone is going to go see that, and like everyone will see it. And even if it's a pile of trash, people will still go see it. You don't have to have Gandalf flying on an eagle as a cameo. You don't have to do that.
Just like, randomly, like an eagle just flies. Like, oh
yeah, oh look, it's Gandalf. Like, respect to your viewers' intelligence. Like,
incapable.
They've watched the movies, they've learned about the characters, they enjoy the world, so they want to watch a new one. They don't need to keep being reminded of all of the things they liked. But this is just a conversation on media in general nowadays.
That's just what everything is for the most part.
Yeah, it's very true.
If it's based on a franchise, they have to remind you that this is that franchise and that you love it. Remember? No. Remember this guy? He's in the thing.
Remember?
He's from the place. Man, South Park is just on the money all the time, aren't they?
Yeah. That's weird.
But okay, anything else on this? Because we're going to go ahead and move on to the Sony stuff, probably for the last 30 minutes. All right. I guess we can start big and then go small, because I want to make sure we get to like the Suicide Squad stuff. And that was by far the biggest thing they had to announce. Well, not announce, like they're just showing extended gameplay of a game that has been in development for a very long time from Rocksteady, the folks who did the Arkham series. First impressions from all of you, or not first because you've seen the game before, but like them finally revealing that it is a live service game. It's going to require an online connection, that there's gear and looting and four-person co-op. Are you guys excited to try this, or was this not what you were expecting?
This is my surprised face. I was so surprised when
Rachel,
they revealed that.
Not amused, or not surprised, I should say.
Well, no, they basically, everyone basically pegged this as a Destiny like pretty early. So
how does that make you feel? Like is that troubling for you as like a games person, like a games player?
None. I mean, I'll probably have the same reaction to it as I did to like all the Injustice shit. You know, all that gear and all that nonsense. Just like I'm just gonna ignore it if at all possible. I think my problem with it is not so much the gameplay; it's the context of the story.
Mm-hmm.
I think a Suicide Squad would have absolutely cleaned house 3 years ago. I'm a little less sanguine about its success now, and I've never found the Suicide Squad interesting as a character, as a superhero unit,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel that they are banking too much on its saturation in public awareness now, because they've basically gone from let's tell the story of like like the worst day of Batman's life. Let's tell these awesome Batman stories in games. It's like, okay, suddenly Suicide Squad. It's like, okay, we get it. You watch the movies and the show too many times. Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm done with Suicide Squad. I don't want any more Suicide Squad crap. The only thing that excites me about this is that we're getting Deborah Wilson as Amanda Waller.
That's a good pick. Like that, that's actually that's a really good pick for Amanda Waller.
We need Deborah Wilson in all the things.
So she's all over the place in video games nowadays.
She
right?
is. Yeah, she's in like all the things. She was in God of War Ragnarok. She was in the latest Ratchet and Clank game, Rift Apart.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah. She was she was why am I forgetting her name? The little female Clank.
Rivet?
No, Rivet's female Ratchet.
Rivet's Ratchet.
Oh, okay.
Whatever the little female Clank. I don't know why I'm holding my fingers up like this. The little female
little.
Clank. She's small.
I love that game. I need to remember.
Yeah, but she's
somebody in chat was there.
She's in God of War Ragnarok. She's in Rift Apart. She's in Jedi Fallen Order.
She was in the second Wolfenstein. Like,
yep.
Was it New Order or whatever it was called?
New Order, yeah. New Colossus.
New Colossus, yeah.
Yeah. So
and it's always her too, for the most part. Like, yes, it's her voice oftentimes, but usually they just use her likeness. And
yeah.
Like, I really love that.
Except in Rift Apart, I don't think they used her likeness there.
Well, yeah, no, probably not there.
Unless she's secretly a small robot bean, then maybe. But yeah, so I Deborah, and everything she's been in, her presence has elevated it, I think. So that's not me complaining. I want her to be in all the things, and I'm glad she's going to be Amanda Waller.
It works. I want to say, yeah, not surprising that they went this route. Surprising that it is Rocksteady going this route, I would say. Like, the fact that it's tied to a big DC license, you would think that they'd get... But that's the thing, because I never got the sense that this was something that Rocksteady was like maybe forced into doing. Like, it seems like this was the direction they wanted to go. After the Batman games, they're like, oh, we want to expand out. They did a lot of stuff in the in the DLC era after Batman Arkham Knight came out that lets you play with a lot of other Bat family characters, right? Mm-hmm. So it only made sense that they would make a new big open world multiplayer experience in that universe. But the fact that an entirely different studio got Gotham Knights and then Rocksteady ended up with Suicide Squad it's like, that's just very confusing to me.
It was very backwards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
and
I don't know what happened there.
Gotham Knights isn't the sequel, and Suicide Squad is. It's very weird.
Yeah, it's very strange. But that being said, the first, like, ignoring all the license stuff and like the world or whatever, the gameplay looks like Crackdown.
It
does look like Crackdown. And Crackdown flat. Well,
yeah, and the thing is, Crackdown 3 was terrible. Crackdown 2 was very boring. But like the core of Crackdown, I think, is still a thing that could work. And like, it kind of excited me to see Crackdown like gameplay in 2023. I was like, could this be like a good one of those? Because like, yeah, if you can get that kind of mindless jumping all over the place fun where you're like shooting at people from miles away and hanging out in the skies and whatever, using superpowers in a big city with a bunch of friends, I think that could be really, really fun. But it's like there's all this other baggage tied to it that makes it less fun, which is the fact that it's a superhero license, the fact that the abilities don't necessarily match up with like the gameplay. Like, Harley Quinn is not Spider-Man yet.
Yeah, how many times are we gonna buff Harley Quinn in order to focus camera, please? Or how often are we gonna have to buff Harley Quinn in order to fool everyone into thinking this woman has any shot against the Justice League?
I know,
okay, to be fair, I am absolutely fucking tired of Harley Quinn.
Yeah,
just putting that out there right now.
I'll agree.
Yeah,
I am
same.
over. I never thought she was a strong character.
I
I mean, while I approve of like her current like arc of like getting out of her abusive relationship and into a positive one. Still super villain and all that, because you don't magically become a good person just because you fixed a problem in your life. That I kind of approve of. But like that the animated show where she's the main character, all the overexposure in games, I'm over it. And again, we're having to constantly buff this person so we can like pretend this mentally unstable psychotherapist has any shot in a straight battle against the Justice League. Over it.
I'm gonna go back to something you said a while back, which is how your game 3 years ago may have sold well for the Suicide Squad, but maybe not right now. I genuinely think the Suicide Squad, or the characters in what we have for the game, are just boring. That you could take them and make them any other character and the game would still play the same. Like whatever he's called, big shark face muscles,
King Shark
could be the Hulk or strong dude number 5. And when I see that character, I know exactly how they're going to play, and I'm not picking them because it's going to be I'm big and I punch, or I miraculously have a gun, or like Captain Boomerang, it will effectively just have a gun. And didn't I see that he doesn't really have a boomerang?
From what I can
tell,
like
he's a speedster.
Yeah, his boomerang teleports him, which is very interesting because in Gotham Knights they do the same thing with Robin's character. Like Robin teleports, and that's how he kind of gets around the city in an interesting way. I love teleporting in video games, period. So like that's gonna be the character I pick. Just
I do too. I like teleportation in general.
But it's like they get saddled with a group of characters, and then they're like, well, the game we want to make needs this, so we're just gonna bolt it onto these characters,
which is why I hate it. So in game design, there's a distinction between top down and bottom up design. So top down is when you come up with the like you've got the characters and you work your way down to think of like how can we make mechanics for these characters. It's narrative first and then mechanics second. Bottom up is mechanics first, characters second. They're clearly coming from a bottom up sense, and then they're just pasting a skin on it. They're like, yeah, teleportation's fun. Fucking Captain Boomerang, he can teleport now. Harley Quinn can do all these things now because she has to, because we need to make interesting gameplay. Make it the Flash. Get another IP. I would play the shit out of a Nightcrawler teleportation game. Like,
yes,
I would murder for that. And instead, we've got Captain Boomerang, but he can now teleport because Boomerang bollocks. I'm done. Like, just make a different game. Nobody cares about the Suicide Squad. The most interesting thing about this game is the villains. Like, I get excited.
Superheroes. Yeah, like I love
Flash
the
comes
idea.
On screen, or Superman comes on screen. I'm like, damn. But oh no, I'm playing Captain Boomerang though.
But I mean, it's in the same regard. Like, we have played evil Superman games before. That was, I mean, shit. That was Injustice.
Yeah.
That was DC. Actually, going even further back, that was Mortal Kombat versus DC Universe.
Yeah.
Like, even going like we've played evil Superman games. Superman has been evil in the comics multiple times. So, although I do think it was hilarious that for all their, like flashy, like whatever they were doing on screen, in that trailer, it was Wonder Woman who stopped the Flash.
Yeah.
They needed Wonder Woman to step in and kick their ass.
And I guarantee this is what the game's going to be. It's going to be you do muddy gameplay that is trying to simulate Crackdown, and then in the cutscenes, something happens to stop the villain that you definitely couldn't kill because you're Harley Quinn. And that isn't fun. Just make a movie, make a different game. Like, It baffles me that this game's being made. It really does.
Yeah, it really seems like it's in a very strange position. Because what I will say is like, yeah, I'm not entirely sure why the Suicide Squad was chosen to kind of lead this sort of ragtag, like, I don't know, like this exodus into transmedia. Like, it's like, okay, the suicide is going to be the thing. And like, it happened very early in the DC cinematic universe attempt as well. Like, they're like, oh, we want to build a connected universe. Let's start with the Suicide Squad. Like, I don't know why
because
that
of
came
Guardians
about.
of the Galaxy.
Oh, you know what? Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they dug up an obscure superhero team in Marvel, and it really worked out for them.
Yeah, you're right.
And so it's like, hey, let's pull out an obscure, wacky superhero squad in the DC universe, and that should work out for us, right?
Yeah.
And then they stuck to that.
And while that did work for James Gunn's The Suicide Squad, like, I think that movie is actually good. Mm-hmm. It's like, the reason it's good isn't because those characters are taking on the characters you know that they couldn't actually take on. Like, if this game somehow makes Captain Boomerang interesting, like, good on it, right? But like, it's not a selling point. Like, you're not pulling people in with Captain Boomerang. You're not pulling people in with Deadshot because it's not Will Smith, right? So it's like they were saddled with this. It really feels like they were saddled with this. And I can't imagine that. Well, I guess I have to imagine. But it's like Rocksteady did so well with the Arkham series. You'd have thought they'd been able to do whatever they want. So, like, I don't know if this is what they wanted or not. Like, there's just no way to know.
Well, I mean, it begs the question. The last Arkham game was how many years ago? So how many of the original Arkham developers have left Rocksteady? I mean, it's a Ship of Theseus problem. It's like, can we even really call it Rocksteady
That's a good point.
if the same team that worked on Arkham is no longer at the studio? It's like, are we even... I mean, we should probably not operate under the presumption that it's the exact same people who made Arkham Asylum, Arkham City. Mm-hmm. It's like, it could just be a name at this point. It's just the Rocksteady name on it, you know, sort of bewitching us into thinking it's the same. It's coming from the same people when it might not be.
That does make sense, because like Rocksteady being owned by Warner was attempting to sell off almost all their video game stuff for like several years now. So I imagine word of that getting around would cause some upper level people to be like, all right, let me find someplace new just in case. And then we just don't hear those stories. So yeah, like that's actually a really good point. But I don't know. At the end of the day, like I want to play it. Will it be another Avengers though? Maybe it'll work.
Not.
Maybe it'll be fun. Who knows? Maybe folks will get sucked into it like they did Destiny.
Only one person got sucked into the Avengers, and that was Marty.
It was Marty, yeah.
and I love that man, but he'll play anything.
Oh no.
Sorry, Marty. I love you.
Yeah.
So, I mean, anything else on this before we jump into any other random scattershot stuff that you guys want to talk about from the state?
Ship of Boomerang. How many times can you add new powers onto Captain Boomerang until he's not Captain Boomerang anymore?
I'd ask the same question about Harley Quinn, honestly.
I was going to say Ship of Harley Quinn, but I wanted to leave space for that joke as well. Fuck.
Well, I will say, just slight nerd rant here. Oh. I feel a bit unhappy because, to me, like, the whole thing about Captain Boomerang is that, like, he's sort of the counterpoint to the Flash's hubris, because the Flash's whole deal is that he thinks he's too fast to catch, and he's way confident in his abilities. So Captain Boomerang's the one who is like outsmarting him with like traps and freezing him and all of those and there's also that's kind of all of the Flash's villains as well. But I mean, Captain Boomerang, since we're talking about Captain Boomerang, he's another aspect of that. He's somebody who comes along to basically burst Barry's bubble when he's getting a little too full of himself. And that's one of the reasons why I'm a little bit like, okay, so we're just making him like a bargain basement Flash at this point. It kind of ruins the whole point of the character. So it's not just that I'm upset about him getting new powers. It's like he's getting new powers that completely undermine, I mean, what little you could say about who he is as a character. It's undermining that. It's like it's a flimsy character concept in the first place, and we're throwing even that out the window.
Mm-hmm. And it just restricts the devs so much. It actually hurts. I can hear their screams, because if they're making him a bargain basement Flash, and they're like, how can we give him Flash-esque powers? I'm sure a bunch of them are just going, why can't it just be the Flash? And then we can just go whole hog, and we can make one really sick game where you play as the Flash, and the entire thing is you run real quick, and it's about navigation and all of that. Like, that sounds really fun and interesting and unique. But they're like, no, you can't do that because it's not the Flash, it's Captain Boomerang. So we can only do so much. Make it like Crackdown. Do you know that game Crackdown? Do that.
Can't you just put Reverse Flash in there? Reverse Flash is a weird ass villain.
He's the most petty villain I've ever heard. Him
So
and
weird.
Thanos have like levels of petty in the comics that are unheard of. Like he would travel back in time and like push Barry downstairs as a child and like dumb shit like that.
It's very Silver Age. It's like, I'm going to steal all the candy from this children, and Superman will not be able to do anything about it.
Like, it's the Suicide Squad. Like, that's why. That's the answer. It has to be the Suicide Squad.
A lot of the DC villains are all very, very petty. Like, Aquaman's villain, Black Manta.
Black Manta, yeah.
Their story kind of wild and very petty. Huh?
Didn't he like lose an election or something like that?
Lots of stuff. There's a bit in the comics where like he reforms because Aquaman dies or seemingly dies, and he goes to work in a barbershop, and then like he sees on the news that Aquaman isn't dead, so he like kills the person he's cutting their hair and goes like, I'm a villain again, and gets his suit and walks into the ocean. Like, he's a fucking madman. And I love it. I absolutely love it.
They should embrace that. They should stop trying to make it all grimdark serious just because the Batman movies were grimdark serious. Embrace the silly. These are people in colored spandex, for God's sake.
Yeah. I love it.
Okay, so
Wonder Woman's design looks awesome, by the way.
Yeah, she does look really good. Yeah, that's the thing. All those cutscenes where the characters are talking to each other, I love.
She looks Greek. I love that.
We won't.
Like every single story trailer, like cutscene thing in that game, like I've liked. Like I like them talking to each other. I like the dealings they have with the bad guy, good guys. I kind of really want to see what that story is, and if the game is, sort of fun along the way, I think it'll be all right. We got a couple of reveals for Street Fighter. Super excited for that game. Cammy looks amazing. Zangief looks amazing. Like, I've never wanted to play Zangief ever, but his showcase in that thing made me feel like I can give him a try. It looks fun. And then they have a brand new character named Lily who also looks dope as shit. Like, all their brand new characters look so cool. Like, cool is the operative word. It looks like if you came across them in real life, you'd be like, I'd follow you on Instagram.
What a compliment.
Like, I cannot wait till that game releases. Baldur's Gate 3. Anybody excited for that? Like, Rachel?
I am. Yes.
Apparently, it only announced that it was coming out on PS5 and PC. But they have said that an Xbox version is in the works, but that they're having some troubles with it. So,
troubles in the I'm kind of wondering, like, troubles in the form of like they've been handed a lot of Sony money.
Yeah, that's where my brain went initially, right? Like my brain went, Sony is paying for marketing rights. But apparently, where did I get this information? One of the Escapist sister sites, Destructoid, posted that a community manager, in their Discord stated that they're working on something that has to do with like split screen co-op, that isn't functioning on Xbox the way they want. Therefore, they don't want to announce anything about it until they know for sure that it'll be day and date with the other stuff. So like this was only an announcement, which I don't know. I feel like that's not a thing studios do, is not announce a game day and date with other platforms because of development troubles.
Small
usually
bug
they push
issues
everything.
that they're encountering.
Yeah.
Nah, I reckon it's possible. The game's out on early access, right? So
yeah, I played it.
Yeah, it's out on early access. It's on Steam. Well, if it comes out on Xbox, they're gonna want it to come out on Game Pass, right?
Yeah.
Not necessarily. I mean, they're gonna want to, but
yeah.
They
but they're probably pushing for that, because I could see Baldur's Gate 3 being on Game Pass. I think it would do quite well there.
Yeah.
and yeah, they're probably like, ooh, come be on Game Pass, and they're like, no.
You've already seen me make Nancy Drew in Baldur's Gate 3. I talked about that like a year ago on come on, camera, what is the matter with you? Keeps sliding out of focus every time I try to talk.
So I don't want to like feed conspiracy theories because but this statement doesn't seem like an official statement. Like it didn't come out on like their Twitter. Like it was in their Discord, maybe.
I think it's a CYA thing where they're like, yes, it's coming out on Xbox eventually. You know, we might have some delays because of some problems that we're not going to go into detail about because maybe the answer really is they're getting their palms greased by Sony.
But that I don't want to say something that you would probably want to say, right? Like you can't keep that secret.
Maybe, but I mean, it could just also be that their palms got greased in the sense that they were having it at a Sony event. So I mean, sometimes when you're at a Sony event, I mean, they've done this as well with the Xbox events too. They'll say coming to Xbox and PC, and then later in like the official Twitter, it'll say, oh, by the way, and PlayStation as well.
Yeah.
So that's I'm gonna guess that's probably what's going on. Where could be there is a genuine issue going on behind the scenes, but I mean, if it's a split screen co-op thing, I would be really surprised.
I agree.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask you guys. From the list of remaining games, is there anything that jumps out at you that you want to make any comments on? Because
I need to see it again. That's how great it was.
Say again.
I need to see the list again because that's how great it was. I need to actually look at it.
Yeah, Rachel, you have something?
I just want to say I'm really excited for the Resident Evil 4 remake.
Okay.
Like stupidly, not in my objective game reviewer sense excited. But I love Resident Evil 4, and I was watching the trailer being like, oh, that's the thing. I remember that. And so like they show Krauser for the first time in this trailer. And also we kind of got like some hints that maybe there is going to be a big difference between the two games. And I was really excited about that too, and it was just like I was seeing the minecart like thing as the minecart chase as well, where you're being pursued by plagas in the other minecarts, and I was just so stupidly excited about that. I mean, I'm such a goddamn cynic about everything else, but I was seeing the Resident Evil 4 remake trailer, and I was like, ah!
That's awesome.
So I was genuinely delighted and excited about that.
Yeah, because all those remakes have kind of had that effect on fans. So it's good that this one, which is like probably the most loved of any specific Resident Evil game, like it seems like they're on the right track with this remake as well. So like that's good.
I did find it amusing that people on Twitter, I saw a couple of tweets on Twitter that were like, "Oh, the trailer revealed too much." I'm like, you know what's going to happen in the game, dude.
Game, didn't you?
Yeah,
we've already played the game 20 years ago. It's fine.
And it's playable on every console ever, including your toaster. Like
exactly.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to play it all the way through for the first time in VR soonish.
Hell yeah, I really want to play it in VR. I was so sad when I saw it was exclusive to the Quest because I've got a Rift.
That sucks. Yeah,
I was like, I would pay $60 for this right now if I could play it in VR. And they're like, no, you don't have a Quest. Shut up. So, okay. Don't have my money.
Sad. Okay, so nothing else from the conference sticks out to you guys? No? And it's fine if it doesn't.
VR stuff. Just anytime VR stuff is announced, I'm like, I think that industry needs the most push out of everything. Yeah, and as a big advocate for VR and its advancements, I hope more exclusive games get released to it. And I think Sony have got a lot of power in that space. I think Valve have got a lot of power in that space. Whenever I see them doing stuff to push it, I'm all happy.
As a Riftman, are you planning at all to get the PSVR 2?
Yes, because currently my PS5 is a very expensive paperweight, and I want a reason to use it.
By spending even more money?
Yeah, but then at least it will have exclusive games on it that I can't play anywhere else. I play all my games on PC because it records better. Mm-hmm. Like I don't have to use any of weird stuff. So if they're like, oh, you can only play the Horizon VR game on our system, I'm all for it, because by the looks of it, it looks like Horizon has always belonged in VR, because that game looks fantastic. So that gives me a reason to actually use my PS5 rather than what it is now. Yeah.
Were you going to add something, Rachel?
I just remembered they're making a game based on The Foundation by Isaac Asimov.
Ooh.
I completely forgot about that.
Right, I did hear about that.
I got really excited because Foundation is one of those series that, I mean, the Apple TV one I haven't, the Apple Plus I haven't, the Apple TV Plus series I haven't watched yet because I do not actually have that streaming service. But
really
anyway,
good.
but yeah, I know, I want to watch it.
I know, like, you're into the books and stuff.
I am.
Wasn't following that stuff, but Foundation like really hit me hard. Like, I love that series.
Yeah, Asimov's Foundation, like, and even just all his robot-based series in general, like starting from like iRobot, Robots of Dawn, Caves of Steel, that whole mystery series, going all the way. I've wanted to see Asimov stuff in either in a game. Actually, I've wanted to see it in a game because I think it would be awesome in a game. And so yeah, I was really looking for. And then when I saw that, it took me a while to figure out. I didn't figure it out until the very title screen what it was, because they weren't making it very clear. I was just like, oh, this looks like a cool sci-fi game. Foundation, what the hell? So yes, nice. That's the only other thing I remember clearly being excited about.
Cool. But will you buy PSVR 2 for it though?
Well, it depends on how big my tax return is.
That's a good point. All right then. So if no one else has anything else they want to add, I think we'll go ahead and wrap up today's show. Thank you so much for joining me. Rachel, where can folks find you, and what do you have coming up that they can check out?
You can find me on at Rachel Kaiser, my name above. That's on Twitter. Again, you can usually find also my stuff on Facebook. If you search my name, I have a public page as well. And I'm putting that out there because there are probably still some people who don't want to be on Twitter, and you probably don't want to be on Facebook either. But also you can find me on Tumblr. That's where you can find also a lot of my other stuff as well. And speaking of which, I've got another Golden Girls post coming out today, and I've got a Perry Mason blog coming out tomorrow. I know everyone's like absolutely like holding their breath waiting for all that stuff as well, but in the coming week you should see a couple of game reviews from me as well, hopefully, if I can get them finished. Octopath Traveler 2, Like a Dragon Ishin, and if I can get it done in time, Wolong Fallen Dynasty. So that's what I got going on.
Sweet. Honey Money, what do you have coming up? Where can folks find you?
Gonna be playing my first co-op. I can't say it not loudly. I have to say co-op every time. For tomorrow on twitch.tv honeymoney/honeymoney. What is it? __. Yeah.
Honeymoney __.
Yeah.
Got it.
Other than that, I guess I'm gonna finish New Tales from the Borderlands. I'll just sit there, talk, chat, I guess, and be like, oh, I have to press something. Okay. Oh, Vaultlander's great. Okay. Yeah. That's basically been my experience with it so far.
You can just stop, like it's okay. No
it's short, and I'm sitting there going like, maybe it'll get better, maybe, probably not, but it's short. I'll try. So yeah.
Okay, Jim 8. What about you? Where can folks find you?
At the Escapist. The Design Delve playlist. I just finished an episode yesterday. It's with Nick, but it's not out. It's the weekend. I'm not throwing Nick any shade. Like, he can have a weekend. But it should be with you. Sometimes he uploads it straight away. Sometimes he's busy. That's fine. Could be out today. Could be out tomorrow. If not, go to patreon.com/Jamate and you can watch it right now.
Nice.
If you also want to support me. But it will be releasing to the public on Tuesday. So if you don't want to do that, it'll be out straight away, because I ran into a lot of trouble with the last episode with working for a week on one and then it getting cancelled for reasons. Yeah, so don't worry about that. But yeah, it'll be out on Tuesday and I'll be working on the next one. Check out my Discord if you want any updates on that. But yeah, that's me.
Sweet. As for me, you guys can find me right here on Twitch at SigmaGears9, as well as Twitter, same handle, where I usually announce streams that I'm doing throughout the week for The Escapist, or streams that I'm doing on my own channel, speaking of which, the open party at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time will be going back to Smash Bros. Super Smash Sunday. We've in recent weeks have a lot of like very, very good players jump in and just wreck shop. So everybody has been slowly stepping their game up. Like the matches are getting so intense. It's so good. It's so fun. Guys, come hang out. Play Smash with us. Outside of that, again, just if you check the Twitter, you'll see what I'm up to for the most part. I got a couple of words on the Escapist site. Should have more in the near future, so keep an eye out for that. And I think that's pretty much it. Thanks everybody in chat for talking with us. It's always a pleasure. Thanks to my 3 guests. Love to have you. That's going to wrap us up for episode 95. Bye.
Yay.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.